Hello, I've got a find today that is not quite as ancient as some of my other finds. It is a mere 140 years old. So what is it? Well, it's a soup plate, or part of a soup plate, from the sergeant's mess of the 42nd Regiment, which is a Scottish regiment, the Black Watch. Now, an interesting story of where this was found and when I think it was broken and thrown away. So I was walking my dogs through a local wood very near to my house here in Surrey, and I spotted a lot of broken bits of pottery and glass in a certain area in the leaf litter. So always worth a poke around, thinking it might be a dump, and it was indeed a dump. So I did a little digging around, found a few things which I'll show you in a minute, and then I found that, which is very interesting. So here is the little piece of china that I found, part of a soup plate in earthenware with a white glaze and blue transfer printing. Clearly says Sergeant's Mess there and a military style badge with the number 42 in the middle, and that is the 42nd Regiment of Foot, the Black Watch, which was renamed in 1881 to be the Royal Highland Regiment, the Black Watch. So it's fairly clear that this piece of pottery was made in 1881 or probably before. Now, above the 42 is the Queen's crown, which is obviously Victorian in date. The King's crown, which came later, is a different shape. Underneath the badge is a sphinx from the regiment's famous service in Egypt in the Napoleonic Wars. And then around the 42 is the motto of the regiment in Latin, Nemo me impune lacessit, which translates as no one assails me with impunity, or no one attacks me and gets away with it. And there is obviously the shape of the cross is very Scottish in style. The Black Watch was raised in Scotland in the 18th century and is one of the most illustrious regiments in the British Army, fighting in every major campaign from the 18th century onwards. In North America, it's one of the first Highland regiments to fight in North America, and this chap is in the uniform around the time of the American Revolution and the fighting then. The regiment fought in the Napoleonic Wars, in the Peninsular War in Egypt, where it acquired the Sphinx on its badge, and also at Waterloo. Now here's a very interesting jug made by Spode in the early 19th century, which shows a soldier from the Black Watch, the 42nd Regiment, playing a rather surprised Napoleon as a pair of bagpipes. And it's also the same print, it's transfer printed, found on a mug and on a jug, which was taken from a contemporary print, which often was the case with transfer printed items. Here are some members of the Black Watch photographed during the Crimean War in the 1850s. And here is a very well-dressed Highlander in the colonial service in India around 1911. Obviously the regiment fought in the First World War and also in the Second World War with great bravery here in the Desert Campaign. And also they were the last British unit to leave Hong Kong in 1997, and here is the lowering of the Union Jack at that time. So my piece of Black Watch Sergeant's Mess bowl dates to 1881 or before, but I think it was used for a long time after that, because the other items that I found in the dump in the wood date to a little bit later. Rather helpfully, one of the first things I found was this bowl fragment here, which very helpfully, and I wish more pottery would have a date on it, is marked W. Adams and Co. 1914, so right at the beginning of the First World War. And other items also dated from that period. We have a Bovril jar with its metal lid there, and also some bottles, wrong way round. So we have that, California Fig Syrup Company, Califig, which I believe is still being made today. Their strapline is keeping your family regular, which no doubt would have been very useful after a couple of helpings of regimental soup. There are also no clay pipes found in the dump at all, which makes me think that it's a later dump. It's not from the 1880s, it's definitely from the early 19th century. And that makes more sense, really, because the Black Watch obviously was stationed in Scotland, and I'm in Surrey. But from 1912 onwards, one of the regiments was actually stationed in Aldershot, which is not a million miles from where I am. So imagine that they were on manoeuvres sometime at the beginning of the First World War, and this old plate got broken and discarded then. And then from Surrey, from Aldershot, from 1914 onwards, the regiment moved off into France and into Flanders to fight in the battles there. And it's probably worth just taking a second to pause and think about the fate of the men who used this bowl and the bravery they showed and the lives that were lost in the battles of the First World War. So a little bit of China with a very interesting history.